Yo, 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 what's up? We back one more again, everybody.
Starting season 2.
Season 2, a new year for us. We're excited about it. We are going to bring you some very exciting things this year. So you should get excited too if you've been following us and you've been along on this journey with us. There is some new and exciting things that we're bringing to you. And we know that you're going to enjoy and appreciate and take away what we're getting ready to bring to you, not just today, but for this next upcoming year.
Get excited.
Yeah. So you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Success in Black and White.
The podcast. We are back in the house one more again. We are back one more again.
In the house.
Coming to you live. We still haven't gotten that.
I know.
It don't
I don't know if we
matter,
ever will.
Yeah. But we back, y'all.
We back.
We excited.
Yeah.
Coming into year number 2 for us.
Yep.
I guess we can just stop saying the episodes. This is our thing. This is what we do. We're not new to this anymore. We do it our way. We're authentic. So that's what you're going to get. So let's bring it to the people. What we got for tonight?
Ooh, tonight I'm excited about this title.
Oh, yeah? Give it to me.
Get over the bullshit.
Wait, what? Hey, I got this. Ain't this a PG?
This PG.
Say it again now.
Get over the bullshit.
Oh, okay.
Shift.
All right. You got it. Hey.
Shift to the
Elongate
left.
that
Shift to the
T
right.
now. Shift.
Shift. The bullshit. Get over
Actually,
the
it's not the T. It's the F.
Right,
Shift.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Did y'all hear that? Get over the bullshit.
Get over the bullshit.
All right, cool. Well, let's talk about that then. Let's bring the people into this conversation and talk through kind of what we've been going through and why we're talking about this. Yeah. And why we're talking about this and where we're going with this.
I like this. Yeah. Why are we talking about this? I want to know, because this was, again, first of all, I'm loving that you're coming up with topics.
Yeah.
I love it because there's always so much energy. Like, I can come up with topics all day long. And some of the topics I come up with are really good. Mm-hmm. But some of them you don't have as much energy around.
What? I always have energy. I bring the energy.
You do bring the energy.
The energy.
It's always better when you come up with the topics, because then I know for sure we're going to have energy.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to know where this came from?
I want to know where getting over the bullshit came from.
Definitely. Yeah. So, you and I, we always talk and we're always communicating and we're always looking for ways to improve what we're doing, to continue to build our brand, to continue to build our business, to continue to come up with great concepts and ideas to give to the people on the podcast. So I don't know if you remember, which I'm sure you do because of the pretty extensive and good conversation that we were having about a shift that we were making in our approach about the content that we're going to deliver and how we were going to deliver it. Mm-hmm. And as I kind of sat and I thought through that, I was like, man, like we've been doing this for a year. We got it down pat and, we're going to make a shift and we're going to change. And it kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety because, it took us time to learn how to do this. And we finally got to a place to where we were comfortable with doing what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, we had a conversation talking about shifting the concept and kind of the ideas around what we were doing. So it gave me a little bit of anxiety. But with that, anytime that I have anxiety, I always try to figure out a way to address it, to approach it, to overcome it.
Yeah.
And during that process, I started talking to myself and as I always do, I started reading, kind of researching about what we had discussed. And then I was doing that. I was like, you know what? I bet I'm not the only person that goes through shifts in their life. But because they're comfortable and they've become accustomed to doing something, they hesitate with shifting.
Yeah.
So I started to formulate ideas and the things that I was learning and what I was reading up on. I kind of picked out things that resonated with me and I've shared some of them with you and you have the notes in front of you.
Yeah.
I figured why not give it to the people because I know as we're getting ready to end 2019 and go into 2020, people are probably starting that shifting process in their life as they're coming up on 2020. You know how they do at the end of the year. And you have the last 90 days, the last 60 days, the last 30 days. Well, as you prepare for this shift, what I found is there's a way to do that so that you're efficient and you actually get over the bullshit.
Interesting.
So that's kind of how I got to this and why I'm very excited, because as we talked about what we're going to do and the ways that we've kind of talked through that we're going to share with everyone, I think is good because it kind of helps you navigate and think through the process of shifting when it's time to make that shift in your life for whatever reason it may be.
Good. I like that. I think it's hard because I think that people change all the time and scenarios change. And sometimes your environment and your scenario changes and you didn't have a choice in it. And so I think this is really going to be good advice for whether you're facilitating that change or whether that change is happening to you and you don't feel like you have as much control. But maybe this is a way that you can wrap your head around big changes or around these shifts that we're talking about.
Right.
So the first thing I think we want to talk about is what is a shift. If we talk about bullshift, PG still bullshit. Yeah. So if we're talking about bullshifting, what is a shift? And I think for us, kind of like you alluded to, a shift is a very gradual change. When we talk about like change, sometimes it can be a very sudden change, right? But shifting usually implies that it's a little bit more of a progression, a little bit slower, something that may happen over time. Sometimes I would venture to say you may not even notice that it's happening. For us, I think that especially if we're talking about when we really sat down to talk about the concepts and the context of our podcast and what we're bringing people every week and how that needed to change and how it needed to stay the same, we talked about the fact that there has been a gradual shift already within the first season, this first year that we did it. And we saw that shift. I'm sure that you guys have seen that shift as well. I remember we started out the podcast, like our first couple of podcasts were like an hour and a half. And we're like, how do we talk about things and not have them be, over an hour? We didn't know how to do that because we had so much we wanted to talk about and we're both talkers.
Right.
And so how did we do that? So we eventually were able to really commit to and shift to under an hour. And then we're like, we had a lot of feedback that people loved what we were bringing, but they're like, we have a hard time listening to anything that's over, 45 minutes because they listen on their commute or when they work out or whatever. And so we really had to try to make that shift to we try to stay around 40 minutes now. So that was just one example of a shift, but it's a very gradual and usually in a forward moving, like you're moving forward. You're usually not shifting back, although that might apply to some areas of life too, just depending on what your situation is, right? Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And to follow up with what you said on how we started out with the podcast, we knew that we were in a position to shift based on the feedback that we were getting. Also based on some of our assessment of what we were doing and the information that we were presenting to people and the content, which was very important because I know that when we first started out, we were doing some like heavy research and we had like 10 takeaway points. Yeah. And we kind of had to go through and pick out the top 3 or 4 to give to the people.
Then it wouldn't be 2 hours.
Then it wouldn't be, an hour or 2 hours long. And that's kind of what we decided to do. And that kind of helped us with the shift. Yeah. But it definitely is what you said. It's gradual and it's progressive, meaning that it's in a forward movement. It's propelling you forward. So I think that was a good way to explain what a shift is and kind of how it related to us. And that was a good example, too, that you gave.
Yeah. I'm curious, though, too, because not everybody is going to be, we're probably one of the small percentage right now. It's a growing field. The podcasting field industry is growing. but we're still a small percentage. So what are other types of shifts that people might encounter? Like, I think sometimes about work is usually an obvious, like, I feel like my work shifts constantly.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a prime example that you just mentioned is work. At work. Shift can come with many different faces, and one could be a shift in leadership. It can be a shift in position. It could be a shift in responsibility. And it could also be a shift in staff, meaning that some of your staff that you oversee or that you work alongside or that support you are moving and doing different things. So definitely one in work. I think that when you talk about personal relationships like ours, there is always going to be shifting within, intimate relationships. And then once you bring in the addition of, kids and other family members, it's also going to give opportunities to where shifting is going to happen. And then if you want to take it a step further, if you want to talk about the business aspect, if you're not continually trying to improve or grow or learn more about the business that you're in or that you're a part of, then obviously there's an issue there, one. But two, businesses are supposed to shift throughout time because as time goes on, especially with podcasts, technology changes, the audience changes, what they're expecting changes. And then throughout the time, as you're growing, you're going to change.
Right.
So I think those are all three different areas where you're talking about at work, you're talking about intimate relationships or family relationships. And then you're talking about business, which we have a business and intimate relationship, which are very separate and they shift in their own ways independently.
Yeah. This is so funny. I don't know why I was thinking about this, but I was thinking about when you were talking about intimate relationships. I had listened to, I wish I remembered which podcast it was, but I don't remember. But I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how men usually, like when there are marriage problems that happen, men usually come into counseling saying, well, I married this person and she changed and I didn't expect that and I want the person back that I married. Women usually go into like a marriage counseling situation saying, I married this person thinking I could change him and he hasn't changed. Isn't that funny? So like there's this interesting like play on what each individual partner may think is going to be a shift in the relationship or may not think would be a shift in the relationship. And I was just thinking about that because I think it's so funny.
I think that matters though. That's important when you're talking about shifting and you're especially talking about partnerships and between two people. They have to communicate that if they are in the midst of a shift or they are thinking about taking on or approaching a shift that they feel is getting ready to come into their lives. Like they got to communicate about that.
Yeah.
Because like you said, the men are like, what happened to this person that I married?
Where's that fun girl I married?
Where did she go?
3 kids later.
Yeah.
Where did she go?
And the women are coming in like, why can't I get this bonehead to change and be who I thought he would turn out to be and who he had the potential to be?
Right.
Isn't
that funny? And the reality is, if you're in a good, healthy relationship, marriage, relationship, whatever it is, partnership that you're in, if you're in a healthy relationship, you should both always be changing. Like there's no reason that either one of you should still be married to the same person that you actually married. Like you should both be changing and shifting, but doing it together.
Progressively and together.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing that I was saying about business. It's the same thing, especially when you talk about business partnership with us. Like we're always looking for that next step. Like how do we grow? How do we get better at what we're doing? How do we learn more about what we're doing? And I think that that's a great example. And you definitely have to do that in the personal relationships because as you continue to grow and you introduce, new things into your relationship, meaning kids for us, I mean, some of those things have to go. Like I can't be my old self.
Yeah.
You can't be your old self. And
can't just go out and party till 1 a.m. anymore.
And hopefully, like, with that shift, you know, we're understanding, and it's a forward shift, and we're communicating it between us.
Exactly.
But also planning it out for our family.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So I love this concept that you wrote down. But I think it's interesting. I don't want to hear a little bit more about it, because I feel like this is a phase of life that could be defined by almost like imposter syndrome especially for entrepreneurs. I think it could apply to anybody. But if you're an entrepreneur, this sounds like imposter syndrome to me. So I'm curious what you think of it. But your term that you have here is Watcherpreneur versus entrepreneur.
Right. So here, let me back up a little bit before I get to that, and kind of give you the context that I'm thinking of. Okay. So from little kids, when you're born, and this isn't for everyone. I'm not speaking for everyone. I know I'm speaking for me and probably a majority. Like, you're taught specific things and ways that you're supposed to go about doing things.
True.
And you're taught that you're supposed to help out, and you're supposed to contribute, and you're supposed to go to the school, and you're supposed to make good grades, and you're supposed to go through school. And now you're supposed to go to college, get a degree, get a good job, advance through the job, get an administrative position, get a good retirement plan, 401k, whatever it may be, get good insurance, live out your life, retire, collect your retirement pension, get your Social Security, and then
you die.
You know, and I think that's what you're being taught.
Yeah.
So when you have those things.
Well, definitely our generation.
Yeah, our generation for sure.
Yeah.
And when you have those things and they're ingrained within you, and they're a part of who you are, throughout your life, you may get to a phase like we're at right now, where you want to step outside of that traditional training, those traditional expectations that you have. And most of the times that come with what we're doing now, where you want to be an entrepreneur. Now, as much as you want to be an entrepreneur, and you want to step outside, and you want to do something different, and you want to do something that you're passionate about, maybe not what you went to school for, maybe not what your family or parents are expecting you to do, before you take a step and before you shift into being an entrepreneur, you're a watcherpreneur. And a lot of the time, we spend so much energy and so much time in that watcherpreneur phase because we will not make that shift because of what has been ingrained, what has been pressed on us, what we've been taught, the expectations that have been drilled into us. So we live out so much of our lives in a phase of watcherpreneurship, and we won't make that shift because we're comfortable with where we are, because that's what's been pushed and ingrained on us. So that's where I came up with that concept. And I heard the watcherpreneur from somebody. I didn't make that up. I heard that somewhere. I don't even remember where, but when they were talking about it, I was like, man. And they were talking about the concept of watcherpreneurship, but they didn't compare the two. And they didn't even talk about it the way that I am. They basically just was bashing all the people who wanted to be entrepreneurs and just didn't.
But here's the thing. I think you have a really good point, because it's hard to make that change. Even now, as entrepreneurs, we still work full time. And there's, we talk about that. There's tactical intention behind that, because there's some things that you have to think about and that are very practical, logistical things. You can't just go off and start a company if you don't have a skill set and you don't have the financial resources and other resources too that we know we need.
Definitely.
But at the same time that we are entrepreneurs, I think this is where I got into the imposter syndrome, because we work hard.
Very hard.
And as entrepreneurs, we work really hard. And it can be easy for somebody to discredit the work that you have done. If you truly are an entrepreneur and you have a business and you're bringing in money, it can be easy for people to discredit that if it's not your full-time gig. And even if it is your full-time gig, a lot of people will try to discredit that. And I remember we were sitting, not this week maybe, in a meeting where somebody was presenting to us, a very well-respected entrepreneur, and he said side hustle.
Yeah.
And, I told him, I said, I get it, but I bristle a little bit when people say side hustle, because if you're an entrepreneur and you have a full-time job, it's not a side hustle. If you're truly an entrepreneur, you live and breathe your business.
Right.
Whenever you're not at work. And so we're, during the weekends, at night, it's like we have another full-time job, and it is our full-time job. It's just like, you're not part-time parents. You're full-time parents all the time.
All the time.
We're full-time entrepreneurs all the time.
Right.
Just that we don't promote the business between 8 and 5 because, we have our other job, and we're full-time workers too. So.
But for what we do, though, we are promoting the business because it's us.
That's true.
So
that is true.
How we're representing ourselves.
And that matters.
It does matter.
And it matters that we do a good job in our actual full-time, 9 to 5 jobs, because that is a representation of us and who we are and what our business stands for eventually,
Yeah. So this is a perfect example, and the segue that you just kind of set up for me was perfect. So what we did before we even took the step and shifted, we were Watcherpreneurs, because what would we do before we decided to make them? We would sit and talk.
We talk.
We got these dreams and these aspirations, and we would talk and, what would you think if we did this? What do you think about this? Oh, this would be so cool. And we never made that shift, even though it was setting itself up for us. Mm-hmm. And finally, one night, it was like, do you want to do this? Disregarding everything else that was going on, which is what you just named off a whole bunch of things, like daytime job and this and that. It does. I don't feel like it discredits me, because what we do as entrepreneurs, it is us. Yeah. And it is associated with our passion and our purpose and our calling. Mm-hmm. So therefore, those things are always with us all the time. And we've just now used that to represent ourselves in a business manner and an entrepreneurship focal point. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it. So back to what I was saying about how we sat there and we talked, and we would never make that shift, but we knew we both wanted to do it. We knew we both had the skill sets to do it. We knew that we were eager enough and that we would commit enough to learn what we needed to get us there. But we never made that shift until that one night, sitting on the couch. Yep. And you were like, all right, what's going on? I told you. And then you were like, let's do it. And that's where we made the shift. And it was gradual, because like I said, we talked about it for so long, and we exchanged thoughts and we exchanged ideas, and we were entrepreneurs because we didn't make that shift. And once we made that shift, that's when we took the necessary steps, and it got us out of that comfort zone. Because the way that I am, we immediately did it legitimate way. Like, we got a business, we got an EIN, we went through the business bureau, got our LLC, got the website. Like, we were like, we're going with this and we're making this shift right now. Yeah. And we did.
And even since then, we've shifted and shifted. Yeah. And shifted.
Yeah. And still shifting.
And we're still shifting. And you know what? I think if we ever stop shifting and stop evaluating and assessing what we're doing, and stop, if we just stop and we don't think through and shift, then I think the business dies.
It does. But like we said, it's so easy to do, because, for instance, like this podcast, we were comfortable. We got this thing, set up the mics, set the laptop up, get the lights, get the cameras, record. Action. And it's like, let's go. Action. And we did it for so long, and then we became comfortable. Yeah. And we were kind of getting complacent, but we went back and we talked about what we were trying to do long term, and was this fitting in with that. Also taking into the feedback that we were getting. And then we looked at, was this really aligning with our long-term plans and our current vision? And it wasn't. And to go a little bit further, we were trying to do a whole lot. I guess I'm about to expose to you all. You cool with this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about to expose to you all what the
shift.
Like
they all know.
What the shift is for us.
Yeah.
So April and I, we are very good at doing a lot of things, and we have been. And I think this goes back to the work example that I was given. Like at work, I feel like I'm supposed to be good at a bunch of things that's in my job description. And that's what they tell you at work. They're like, all right, you got to know how to do this. And you got to know how to do this.
That's what HR evaluations do.
I know. It's like, you got to know how to do this, this, and this. And
if it's not your strong suit, you're going to get docked.
Yeah. So April and I, because it's been ingrained, because of what we've learned, we tried to take that same approach in our business.
We did.
And we were trying to do everything that everyone was telling us they thought we should do, everything that everyone was asking us to do, everything that we thought we should do. And before you know it, we were doing a lot of things good and we wasn't doing one thing great.
Yeah.
So our shift was to scale back all of these things in our business that we are capable of doing and focus in on what our vision is, what our goals are, and kind of hone in on what we want to and what our actual passion is and our calling is. And then from there, as opportunities present themselves, we can share some of our other talents. But we're not going to build our business around all of the different things that everyone's telling us to do, everything that we think we should do, everything that we think people think we should do. And that's a shift that we made when we're kind of looking at it. But
feedback is so important because a lot of what we do now is based on valuable, critical feedback that we've gotten from people who listen to us, interact with us, who have hired us. We take that feedback and it matters. And so those are shifts that we made and that we continue to make. But I like what you're saying, because we don't always, if it doesn't ring true to who we are or to our values, we also won't make the shift just because somebody says it.
Right, correct. But I know that for us, we were doing a lot of things that we thought we should be doing.
Yes, we were.
That we're capable of doing and we're very talented at doing and we're very good at doing. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like those were or are secondary to what our main focus is for us.
Yeah.
And that's the shift that we're currently kind of going through right now, where we're going to evaluate, services that we provide or topics that we talk about. And we may still have those same topics available, but there's going to be what we want at the top and at the forefront. And when people see us, they're going to be able to know that's what we're about. Because right now you can ask 5 different people what they know about us, and they'll probably tell you 5 different things.
And that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Also, yes, I know what you're saying, but also we put a lot of ourselves out there, which was very intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this too, is we want to control our narrative, but we also want to share our lives.
I feel like that's the piece that we're kind of leaving out.
Yeah.
When we're sharing. And I think that that's what makes us who we are.
Yeah.
And there are some people that want that and some people that don't. But here's the thing that I feel very good about is that the experiences that we face in our lives will get to where the people think they want us. But they just gotta be okay with us and trust us doing it our way, which is what I think we're shifting to, is doing everything our way.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about the shift, that's basically kind of what I'm saying, to sum it up in a nutshell. All the different things that we're good at, we're not going to stop doing those things. But I think that we're going to hone in and do it our way. So whatever we do is going to be our way. And if you're good with it, then that's cool. You rock with us. If you're not good with it, then I hope that over time you will see that what we do and how we do it can still accomplish what you're trying to attain if you're considering us.
I want to shift to the conversation a little bit.
Okay.
In our spirit of bullshifting. But I want to shift it back a little bit to what you said about passion, because what I want you to talk about is whether it might apply to people if they are in business with somebody, but I think more so it could apply with like a partnership, a marriage, a relationship, a friendship even. How do you either like coexist or come up with goals that will be good for maybe the both of you in a relationship? Or maybe you have a business partner. For us, we have a unique situation in that we are married and we are business partners.
Right.
And so how do you recommend people honor their true passions and still use those passions to do their calling? Like, for instance, we have different passions.
Right.
But we have similar values and similar goals. So how do you recommend people navigate and still feel like they're doing their passion, their calling, when they're striving for the same goal?
I think you just answered the question with the last statement.
Oh,
Make
Look
sure,
at me.
I know, make sure that you're striving, one, for the same goal.
Okay.
I think that's where the most important part is. I mean, so that's funny that you asked that question, and this example that I'm about to give you, you're going to laugh because we literally just had this conversation like before we started this episode. So I think it's about having the same goal and understanding that what I bring to the table with my passions are maybe not the same as yours, but they will meet in the middle and align because we have a common goal. Mm-hmm. So remember, before we started this episode, the blankets that are behind us on the couch.
Yeah.
Right? Don't shake your head. Like, for real, this is a perfect example. I'm glad you said that.
That's a good example.
And it's fresh. So when we were getting ready to set up for this episode, I am very particular. If y'all don't know this by now, you haven't been listening to us long enough. Go back and listen to all of the previous episodes. So there's a certain way I like the blankets behind me folded up and my pillows that are behind my back. If you're watching, I'm moving to the side so that you can see. Like, I'm very particular and I do it the same way every time. So April has decided that she wanted to also add her blanket behind her. I'm okay with that. I'm cool. I'm not going to be the keeper of the blankets in this house. If she wants a blanket behind her, she can put a blanket behind her. So I did my blanket. I folded it up. I had it straight where the white fuzzy edges were not showing and they were tucked in. April just got her blanket, had overlaps, nothing was aligned, and she threw it behind us. And I was like, what are you doing? And she said, what? I said, your blanket, you got the white edges showing. Oh, what are you talking about? Does that really matter? I'm like, hey, listen, and this is where the common goal comes in at. I'm like, hey, do you like for us to be well represented in the video? The answer was yes. All right, then. For me, I feel like this represents us well in the video when what we're putting out there looks structured, organized, straight, and folded and creased and laid over the couch the right way. So then she gonna hit me with, well, I'm sorry I did it wrong. I said, no, your way was not wrong. Because it was not my way doesn't mean that it was the wrong way.
But you guys see there are no white edges.
Yeah, the blankets behind us are...
So my way was clearly wrong.
No, it wasn't wrong. It was your way, but for what we're doing right now and our common goal of representing ourselves well on camera, we're not matching.
That's true.
So your
and that's
way...
like, they say, there are some battles you're just not going to die on the hill.
But why would that even be a battle? For what we're trying to do, our common goal of representing ourselves well on the camera would not have been met if both of us weren't in agreement.
Agree.
Of what the blankets look like behind us.
No, it's not a battle for me, but it is a passion of yours.
Yes.
And we do have the common goal.
Yes.
Your passion is making sure that the blankets are well folded.
Right.
Our common goal is to make sure that things look decent on camera.
Right.
Yes. So I see where you're
So that's what I'm saying. The common goal is the most important part, even if you do have different passions. And I obviously think that you have to discuss those passions. I definitely think that's important. You have to talk about them. But you can find the common ground or the common goal to where you can use both of them and align them so that the goal is met.
Agree.
And you have to do that together.
Yeah, agree.
So I think that goes perfectly into step 1 when you're talking about common goals.
Okay.
And making shifts.
Yeah.
And doing things together or independently.
Yeah.
You have to make the decision. Yeah. So back to the example that we had about the blankets. I made the decision that I was going to refold the blanket.
Yeah.
I didn't even make you refold it.
No, I appreciate
I said, baby, since it's me that cares about the blankets, we do have a common goal. I'll take this one. I'll fold the blankets.
Yeah.
When we're talking about our shift, though, we talked about it, like I said earlier. Mm-hmm. Like we talked about it and we made the decision. And that's the first step is you have to make the decision that you're going to make the shift.
Do you think that people, let's use entrepreneurship, Watcherpreneur to entrepreneurship as an example. Mm-hmm. Do you think that people, when they make this decision, do they need to have all their ducks in a row, so to speak? Do you need to have all your financial resources, all your outsourcing resources, all of your support? Like, do you have to have all your ducks in a row to make that shift?
No, that is a perfect segue. So I got my notes right here, y'all. I mean, you just setting me up. Like that was a like.
That's good because I haven't looked at these notes very well.
That was like a softball, like
perfect
pow out of the park right there.
That's so good.
So that leads into my very next step. So after you make the decision that you're going to shift, because we're talking about shifting. So you're like, all right, I'm a Watcherpreneur, but I really want to do this and I want to shift into an entrepreneur. You got to decide and say, you know what? I'm going to do it. It's my decision. It's my decision right now. And I'm making the shift. The very next step is to challenge your assumptions. So that is basically getting out of your own head and getting over your emotions. That's the very next step. So I wrote down a couple of ways that you can do that. So like if there's an attachment to something or someone that's prohibiting you from doing that, like you gotta decide and you gotta get out of your assumptions of what the possibilities may or may not be, you know, what this person may or may not think, what may or may not happen in this situation to this particular thing.
You know what I think about with this?
What's that? I
think about one of the number one things, I know at least for me, because I'm a freaking control freak, delegation.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of when you say that, because it's probably the number one thing that will hold me back from whether it's entrepreneurship or in my 9-to-5 or even like we talked about in our personal relationship, delegation and asking for help.
Definitely. So once you make the decision, you have to challenge your assumptions and kind of get your emotions in line. And then I think another part of getting your emotions in line is being content and comfortable with the decision that you made and moving forward with that and not listening to what everyone tells you should or could do. Because especially when you're talking about entrepreneurship and you tell somebody who's not on the same wavelength as you and they don't have the same energy as you do, they're going to tell you everything that they think they know about entrepreneurship that you should take into consideration. And they are a Watcherpreneur. And what is that going to do? That's going to get you in your own head. And you're going to start to come up with all these assumptions. And what is it going to do? It's going to take you backwards. And you're going to be stuck before making a shift because you got to go through these steps. You're going to be stuck at the decision of, I'm going to make a shift. And if you don't get past the next step of getting your emotions in line, you're going to be stuck right there on step number 2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good to you know, communicate with people and share with them ideas and concepts and hear what they have to say. But you have to determine that you're doing it based on what you want to do and where you want to go, not on where they're telling you should go or where they think you should go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you have more, but I do just want to say, because this for us has been a sticking point with our podcast, especially because as we talked about what do we want it to look like and what should it look like, we know the directions that we want to go. We know we want to do more of talking about interracial relationships and diversity and really finding your own success
in your differences.
And so, I mean, that is, when we talk about the shift that we're talking about, that is what we're talking about and what we have had conversations about in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
At the same time, we still want to talk about things that matter to us, like this topic right here.
It matters.
Right. Like bullshifting. This matters to us. And it really does. I laugh because the title's funny, but this matters to us. And so we want to have the freedom to be able to set aside what we want to do and what we need to talk about and what matters, but then also set aside time for us to talk about these topics that are important to us and important for us to share with you that we know people get a lot out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. I think that was a good point, and I'm glad that you added that in there and you actually told them kind of the shift that we were making.
That is the shift we're making.
Yeah, so our focus is going to be more on embracing your differences to help you find success.
Right.
And for us, we have so many differences. Obviously, one, we're in an interracial relationship. But that could be on any platform. And a lot of the things that we talk about are so easy to use in different settings and different situations. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty transferable. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we're very passionate about is, like she said, the diversity and inclusion. How to make your differences work for you, how to use your differences to elevate you, how to use your differences to be successful. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with using your differences and your strengths and holding on to those and letting those show through as you be the best version and authentic version of yourself.
Yeah, agree.
So we're very passionate about that. We kind of, earlier, we kind of decided we wanted to do it, but then we stayed away from it. But that's who we are. That's what we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. We feel like that's a large portion of our purpose. Mm-hmm. And we are who we are, and we are together, and we believe in what we believe in, and we have our vision, our goals for a reason. So
yeah. Ooh, I can't wait to talk about some of our topics we have.
Oh yeah. So let me get to this last step.
Go to the last step.
No, the last one is after you make the decision to shift, which I think is very important.
Yeah.
You have to challenge your assumptions. So that's getting your emotions in line. Mm-hmm. And then the last step is you have to focus on the decisions that you're making during the shift and not the shift itself. Because once you start shifting, it's going to happen and you're going to shift one way or another once you start to shift. So make sure you hone in and you focus on the decisions that you're making while you're in the midst of a shift so that you can determine and dictate how you're shifting. If you focus on the shift itself, you're going to get lost on the decisions that need to be made while you're in the shift to help get you to where you originally decided you wanted to shift to. So step one, decide that you're going to make that shift and stick with it. Step two, challenge your own assumptions, get your emotions in line. And step three, focus on the decisions that you are making during your shift and not the shift itself. Those are the 3 steps right there. You do those and you shift and you stay focused on what you're trying to do. I think that the next step for you is going to put you in a position to be successful at what you're trying to do and what you're planning to do next.
Yeah, agree.
I believe that. And that's kind of what I found, and that's what stood out to me. And I was like, that's it. We talked about it. We made a decision.
Yeah.
We challenged our own assumptions because there are some things that April thought and some things that I thought, and then some things that we took from feedback, and we're like, all right, let's find out what really matters for us and what is going to work for us, not based on what other people said should work for us. And then we focused on the decisions during the shift and not the shift itself, so that we knew that as we were shifting, it was going in a direction that was going to work for us. And you can do it if you use those 3 steps. Those aren't the only 3 steps, but I think that that's a good starting point for you If you want to talk to me about it, definitely talk to me about it. If you want to bounce ideas off me, definitely bounce ideas off me. And get over your bullshit.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Well, anything else you want to add to that?
No, just get over your bullshit.
Get over it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight.
All right.
Until the next time.
We out.
Peace.